It is Talking Reds, Neil Atkinson and Josh Sexton, brought to you by our friends at NordVPN. If you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, you can see everything that there is there. We'll come back round onto that. We're going to have a chat about the Champions League picture, where it was left last night after Manchester City got their victory that they required. We're going to have a chat about Guardiola's comments post-match about what he wants from a squad. We're also going to look ahead to Manchester United playing Tottenham Hotspur, which is, it's a game of football. And someone does lift a trophy at the end of it, so it's worth sort of pointing that out. Tottenham desperate for the trophy, Manchester United desperate for the Champions League money. I know which motivation is more noble. I don't know who's going to win. So we're going to cover all that, but I want to start off with Florian Wirtz. I've been away.
You have.
Thanks for that. Thanks for your insight on that matter. Which means I've missed all the... I haven't missed, I've been part of, but from afar, the Florian Wirtz-based excitement. Now Christian Falk, who's been very much, you expect him to go to Bayern, as just a few minutes ago said that Liverpool are very serious about Florian Wirtz. This is a direction of travel which I think has been clear that Liverpool, I think, feel that this is feasible and doable. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, there's basically a million different ways I can see this, and it's been funny to see the sort of almost different levels of scepticism. Like, I'll be honest, I've held my own levels of scepticism about this. Like, even when City sort of got moved from out of the picture, I was still expecting him to go to Bayern. I still would probably say I'm percentage-wise still sort of 70% sure that he'll end up at Bayern, and maybe only 30% that he'll end up at Liverpool. Like, the one thing that concerns me about it coming from a source like Christian Falk is it could just be sort of Bayern posturing to try and get Wirtz to either kick up a bit of a fuss or something along those lines. It feels like that is entirely possible, that the direction of the sort of direction the story is coming from caters towards him still going to Bayern. There's obviously been the sort of what I would call the internet transfer people who love a transfer, love to see the Reds make a signing, but every time Liverpool links with a player seem to think that it's just for PR, which I always find really interesting. Like, the idea that Liverpool missing out on all these players is good for PR, when really, like, the people who that PR would be for are those people. Like, those people are the ones who love the transfer, so they're the ones who would be like, I'm so pleased that Liverpool have managed to pip Bayern Munich and City to Florian Wirtz. But then the thing that sort of reassures me throughout all of this is, as you say, like, if all this is to be believed and sort of taken at face value, it feels like there's almost a bit of a clearing of the way for Liverpool. And I was trying to think of, like, maybe transfers where this has happened in the recent past, where it's been like, he's nailed on to go somewhere else, and actually Liverpool would just sort of come into stark focus from there. I'd maybe even go back as far as Van Dijk, where it seemed nailed on that Van Dijk would go to City, that was the way that everybody was talking. Liverpool were looking at different targets, which I think I remember at the time included Harry Maguire, didn't it?
Yeah. Alisson and Real Madrid was knocking around for a period.
Exactly. Like, there's a couple of those ones where, like, I think we as Liverpool fans were all sort of going, we can't play in the same financial leagues as any of those people. It seems to me like Bayern can't play in this financial league that Leverkusen have sort of set for Florian Wirtz. So maybe that is where Liverpool can steal in. I guess some people would still be sceptical about whether Liverpool can play in that same financial league. I'm inclined to believe they can, and I'm inclined to believe that they're going to raise a lot from sales this summer anyway to suggest that they would be able to, especially if they were to sign somebody like Wirtz.
Just on the money, I think that the money is striking. That we know that the money's been there in the past. I don't buy the PR thing either. I think the PR thing only works if you actually get the footballer at the end. And so if it's out there that you wanted a footballer, you didn't get him, it actually in the end reflects badly.
Yeah.
I'm struck on, firstly, what he might cost, but also that Liverpool will be prepared to put it down. I expect Liverpool to spend a fair bit of money. What I do think is the case, though, is there may well be a couple of ramifications elsewhere if Wirtz does happen. I think it kicks on. It certainly would remove... Liverpool aren't going to do whatever it is for Wirtz and then do whatever it is for Isak. Yeah. If Newcastle don't qualify for the Champions League, I expect Newcastle to qualify for the Champions League. I don't think Isak's going anywhere. But I think there is a thing here, isn't there, where if they do Wirtz, I think it knocks out, realistically, the idea they do Rodrigo. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Yeah, and this is, like, I think I've made a couple of mistakes on shows so far, sort of saying that, if it's Wirtz, then I think it's probably Ekitike. I didn't realise how expensive Ekitike was, to be honest. Yeah. I thought he was sort of like Liverpool's low-budget, high-risk option almost, but maybe there's somebody else who sort of comes into the picture there who Liverpool see as being higher risk, almost like the sort of the Jarell Hato signing compared to the Dean Howson signing. Like, Hato is who I expect Liverpool to go for in defence now, having missed out on Dean Howson, and that, again, represents, high risk, but sort of low budget and I guess low in terms of that sort of transfer fee that they go for him. So like I would expect that if Liverpool do sign Wirtz, he becomes a bit of a 10 for them and a bit of a false 9 for them, and Liverpool can sort of go horses for course with that. It's really interesting that all this comes around at the time that Dominic Szoboszlai plays it's probably not his first game at number 8 for Liverpool, but definitely what I can remember is like his first start. It's like, oh no, he's actually just the number 8 in this game, and Harvey Elliott's the number 10, and Gravenberch is the 6 as he sort of always is. I think it's really stark that that's come around at the same time as the Wirtz thing, if I'm sort of doing the almost the chinny reckon conspiracy theorist around it.
Yeah, I think they're going to do, genuinely, I think if you take Wirtz out the picture, I expect them to do possibly 2 forwards, depending on if Jota or Diaz move on alongside Nunez. I'd be
very surprised and upset if Diaz moves on, by the way.
I don't want Diaz to move on, which is a flip from last summer. I think he's important 100%. Now. I also think that if you get into a situation where your 4th best attacker is Diaz, my God, you're in great nick.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. And he'd get as much games as any of the other 3. Well, maybe not if Salah's there, but 2 of the other 3. Yeah. And if you sort of had Diaz as the 4th in that list, I think you're in great shape. I think if Jota goes along with Nunez, there's a chance they do 2. I've thought all the way through they will buy a midfielder. It will be the best one they can get, and Wirtz falls into that category, but because he will be so expensive, it makes me think that even if Jota did go, for instance, and Nunez, they might only still do therefore 1 forward, and Wirtz plays a couple of roles. I think there's every chance he does loads of false 9 if he comes in and plays for Liverpool, and Szoboszlai's in there as well. The tactical ramifications are quite significant. I think it will possibly mean, I take your point on centre-back, but I wonder if they just do a bit of what we hold on centre-back for a year, do the 2 full-backs, stick with the 4 that they've got, and sort of have the attitude of, no, we've sorted this other bit of the pitch out and we'll worry about centre-back next summer, is what I think might happen in terms of Liverpool's investment in there, because I don't see them buying a compromised position in any. I think they're going to just go and get the best one that they can, but rather than therefore get 2 of the best ones that they can, they might just end up only getting 1, if you see what I mean, in attack. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it does, and it's where I guess Liverpool always sort of live and die by the sword, don't they? And that in a way is to be respected. I would definitely be worried if that means that 2 summers in a row they've missed out on the top centre-back target, being Lenny Yoro last summer and Dean Howson this summer, and they still think that's fine. They've targeted two different centre-halves, both at a sort of 50 million price point, and gone, yeah, it's fine that we've not signed them, and Konate's into last year of his deal, and Kwanzaa's had a down year, and Joe Gomez is injured again. Like that would genuinely really concern me, and there's loads that excites me this summer. Like, I'm trying not to get too bogged down in concerns about any of it. I don't want Liverpool to go into this summer with those 4 centre halves. I think Kwanzaa has been sort of overexposed in like a not in an overexposing kind of way this season. I think more just overexposed by like a what needs to be a year of development for him, and probably more sort of progressive development. He's just been more of a position of need. Like, he's had to come in at times of need for Liverpool, and I think that's only increased the pressure on him, meant that he's been the sort of man at the scene of the crime more often than not, and it does concern me for Kwanzaa's development if he's going to continually be effectively the 3rd choice option, because I still think even if Joe Gomez was fit, Kwanzaa is basically your 3rd option at centre half there, because you're going to need Joe Gomez to do some bits of the other things. So I really want Liverpool to go and sign a centre half this summer. On the sort of forward thing, I agree. I think you could see him doing.
Which side? The centre half? Because I think it's really hard to imagine them buying someone who could only play left.
Yeah. I sort of wonder how much that matters in the grand scheme of things, and that's where again, like, and I know people hate it, like, I wonder if they can just sort of almost cheat with Kwanzaa a bit, because I think Kwanzaa can do left. I actually think his Brighton performance is one of his best performances.
Yeah, no, I think Kwanzaa can do left, but the point being is that they can't buy someone, I think, who only does left. This is my point here. So you said about Hato, but Hato's left-footed.
Yeah.
He does stuff at left-back as well. There's been a Branthwaite link. I'd be hugely interested in Branthwaite, but you can't do Branthwaite this summer, I don't think, because you can't give him the games. And there's no point buying a young player and then saying a young centre-back who's getting games and then saying, no games for you, if you see what I mean. Because you've given, again, not dissimilar to in the attack, you've given Salah all the money. You've given Van Dijk all the money. You've given him all the money because you think he's playing. If you see what I mean, the money goes on the pitch. That's the way Liverpool operate.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess it's where Liverpool will probably, and I know people hate the word as well, but like, we'll probably lean into that sort of opportunism even more. Is like, does the opportunity of Hato, and when they sit down and have negotiations with him, if they say to him, listen, we've got you a couple of Champions League games in there, you'll be playing every single League Cup game, there'll be a couple of FA Cup games in the early rounds there for you, does he just sort of deal on that? I'd be really interested to see. I mean, he's starting for Ajax, isn't he? And Ajax have, I know, just missed out on the league title, but they are still a title challenger in the Dutch league, so it'd be sort of almost churlish of me to say, well, he'll definitely drop that to come to what is effectively less game time at Liverpool, possibly better for his development in some senses, but arguably worse in the sort sort of game time sense. I think that the opportunism around the forwards will be interesting. I was going to say then about like the Wirtz sort of false nine thing is...
Yeah, Tim Sinclair said in the comments, does Wirtz equal 4-2-4-0? Almost what we saw at times at Man City, where he could play two wide lads, and it'll be Szoboszlai and Wirtz who are sort of between them, looking after that space. I think there's every chance of that, but we'll see.
Yeah,
if he comes, obviously, I think it's an if.
I don't know if it ends up being 0. I think.
Yeah, but I think my answer just being Wirtz.
Yeah, there's a big average positions thing, and I think I always used to think about this whenever it was sort of Klopp's more sort of traditional front three in inverted commas. Was that Salah was always so high up the pitch, and I know Salah started to sort of gradually drop a little bit deeper in the pitch. I think the pitch is more compact now for Slot than it was for Klopp anyway, because Slot wants to sort of play the more of the shorter passing game, doesn't want to do quite as many of the big switches as Klopp did. Klopp wanted those forwards to be, especially Mane and Salah, sort of right off the shoulder, so that there is that option for the out ball if ever Liverpool needed it, if they were getting counter pressed and things like that in certain situations. So I think Wirtz would be a really good option that sort of allows Liverpool to be opportunistic and cheat their own forward system a bit, where I would still like Liverpool to go and get a number 9. I would still like them to sell Darwin Núñez in the summer. Again, I don't think they would sell Diogo Jota, but it comes back to opportunism. If someone comes in and offers 30 million for Jota, and I'm Liverpool, I'd be absolutely biting your hand off for that.
For 30 million?
Yeah, right. I'm saying that like there's no way Jota fetches over 20 million this summer. I don't think. I don't think anyone would take that bet on him because he's just not guaranteed to touch the pitch for long enough for anybody's taste. Like if you are a team who's looking to sign Diogo Jota as your first or even second choice forward.
Well, Walsh in the comments says, I think you're thinking too small here, Neil. There's a good chance 5 attackers leave: Elliot, Diaz, Núñez, Jota and Chiesa. They will go big again. I think there's a chance 3 of those 5 leave. I think there's a chance. No, genuinely, I think there's a chance 3 of those 5 leave. I just think that they won't want to leave themselves a ton to do. But that said, I think that the 5 that he's listed there, I think there's a price point where on all 5 Liverpool would go yes. And that is, and I'd have Diaz at the bottom of that list, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a point on, I think that if offers come in over a certain amount for any of those 5, even if the other 4 have already gone, I think Liverpool would go yes. But I think it has to be, and also the player themselves have got to want to go as well. Yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic shift this, because I feel like you're Gutman in this scenario and I'm you. Like I'm the one who's just trying to temper all the experts. Like I feel like I'm playing bad cop now.
No, didn't you play bad cop?
I just want Liverpool to have like some level of continuity this summer. I want Liverpool to sign on a slot footballers. I don't want loads of the.
But isn't that? Isn't that the? And that's why I think Diaz will stay. Isn't the continuity Gakpo,
it's
Diaz,
why I
Salah?
want Jota to stay as well, by the way.
Really,
saying what I said before, yeah.
I think so. But I think if you're saying that you don't think Jota's worth more than 30 million, I think you're making a bit of an argument that he shouldn't be playing for Liverpool at the moment.
Yeah, and that's kind of like my argument going into next year. Like I want Liverpool to be selfish about their transfer aims this summer. Like if Diogo Jota goes and sits down with Slot and says, "Listen, you've signed Wirtz and you've signed X or the number 9 there. I don't see where the game time is for me," and Slot goes, "You know what, fair enough. I don't really see where the game time is either." And they sort of work out a deal to get Diogo Jota gone. Then like you sort of have to hold your hands up at that point, don't you? I would love that if Diogo Jota didn't go into the office after Liverpool signed Wirtz and X number 9, if Liverpool just went, "Yeah, I'm glad he's not coming actually, because we'd like to keep him around as that sort of third choice option."
I think Jota's great, but I think the way he's been since the injury this season, the Chelsea injury, the first one, I think it's been really odd. And there's a line that Sean Rod just said on review that's really stuck with me, which is, if you're a centre-back coming up against Diogo Jota, your only concern is that he scores.
Yeah.
Whereas you think about the best players that you get around Europe at the minute, at the top end.
It's almost like the opposite with Núñez. The concern is everything else besides him
scoring.
But
there's players for whom you want to list really, really good forwards. The concern is they're gonna do this to me, and they'll stick it into the back of the net. Which I think is in there as well. We've got a poll, excellent stuff, excellent. I'll just sort of close that down, and we'll try to see if we look at it at the end. Remind me to do that.
Okay.
Where I've ended up. So I've also pulled a little bit of data as well, which they can't see, but that's fine. The grown-ups, they understand numbers. And I've got my own little thing on midfielders and what Liverpool might be looking for. And Wirtz obviously absolutely pops on it. Unbelievable playing under pressure. So he actually passes the ball better in the Champions League this season. So it's a small sample, but his pass completion under pressure is better than his pass completion when not being pressured, which I think shows the quality of the footballer. Unbelievable for on-ball value, which is a metric that StatsBomb used brilliantly. Unbelievable for pressured pass, 88% of them he completes. Counter pressures in opposition half. He's 97th percentile for that. Grafts like nobody's business on top of everything else that he brings. Because everyone's been talking about the silky stuff, but for me, what's most interesting is that in comparison to midfielders full stop across Europe, Wirtz works as hard as anyone, and I include Szoboszlai, which is a big thing that Liverpool are about as well. And I think all of that is one of the reasons why he might be a real sweet spot moment for Liverpool. If he's got all of this in his profile already, and then all of that quality too, then I think that's why Liverpool may well end up there.
Yeah, I think he might well be Thiago Alcantara with legs, to be honest. Like, I think he's almost got that same Thiago body type, really, doesn't he, as well? Like, that's definitely like a comparison I can see. I've been interested to see like how Slot would deal with someone like Thiago. Like, even with the lack of legs, I feel like Slot would love a player like Thiago. So it's no sort of mistake to me, or sort of coincidence to me, I should say, that Florian Wirtz has been the link, particularly in an Arne Slot system. Like, I think it makes tons of the sense. Again, I almost just come back to that word opportunism. Like, if this is an opportunistic signing for Liverpool and it comes in at 100 odd million, it's going to make a lot of people who hate the word opportunism look a little bit silly, because what it actually means is like X player becomes available for you in any way, like even if they are really expensive, but they become available to you and want to come to Liverpool. That is still a level of opportunism. So I'll be really interested to see if these links sort of intensify. I would like to see people other than Christian Falk reporting them, and that's no disrespect to Christian Falk.
No, whatsoever.
I want them to not just come from a Bayern direction for a little bit before I can get properly serious, as serious as he suggests Liverpool are about it.
There we are, that's what we want. Anyway, we are with NordVPN. I was recently away in Cyprus and was able, my dad was, to use NordVPN in order to be able to get stuff on iPlayer that he wanted to watch whilst we were over there, which was absolutely brilliant. And that's one of the many things that you can use it for. There's more than just that with NordVPN. If you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, you get tons and tons of internet security, which is also very, very useful, full stop, both home and abroad when you're on your 5G and so on. It helps protect your data at the time.
Snoopers and criminals, I like that.
Yeah, snoopers and criminals, it says on here. You've got it there as well. It also does it on public Wi-Fi too, and that is very, very useful as well with NordVPN. You can get it if you sign up with the Anfield Wrap. You get a reduced cost for 4 months, and it's also available on all your devices. But as I said, the primary reason why it was used whilst we were away was my dad was able to therefore download stuff on iPlayer to watch on the plane back. It was late, it was 10 p.m, so it was the right sort of move. Was a little bit of TV on the iPad at that point. It was one of the planes that didn't have the screens.
Right.
It was theoretically short haul. It went on for 5 hours.
Is it not a nap move on a 10 p.m? How long is that flight from Cyprus? About 3 hours.
It was 5.
Oh, was it?
Literally
Yeah,
5. It was 5 at 10 p.m. I'd have liked a nap, but it was not the most comfortable. It's absolutely fine. That's the way in which it goes.
Yeah.
Like, I had a lovely time, but my dad was able to watch stuff on iPlayer, and did so with aplomb.
Nice.
I tried to sleep because I was up the next day to go to Brighton. Brighton, by the way, was absolutely brilliant.
It looked absolutely brilliant.
We had more fun than should be
enjoyed
allowed.
Craig just kissing you loads.
Yeah.
You got a lot of kisses from Craig.
A lot of kisses, an overwhelming amount of kisses.
I would say so.
Yeah, he's off sick today. You might want to link the two facts. It's one of them, isn't it? In the long run.
Last time he was off sick was his wedding. So.
Yeah. So he's off sick today. So yeah, I'm not saying these things are linked, but they may well be. So we are really pleased to partner with NordVPN. We have been for so long now, and we will continue to do so. So if you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, there's all the stuff you can sign up for there, and there's a 30-day money back guarantee. All right, I wanted to do a little bit on not so much that City won last night. I expected them to. Guardiola's comments post match, in the context not just of Guardiola, but in the context of what we're all talking about transfers and summers and ins and outs. Guardiola very much, I mean, he threatened to quit, which I think is remarkably dramatic. But if the club doesn't reduce the size of his squad this summer, saying leaving so many players out is impossible for my soul. I want to sort of pull this into the start of last season. Gomez doesn't make a 20, and there's talk that he's linked away, and he's might be having conversations about that. I think this is one of those things that's a problem at the start of a season. It's not a problem in January and February, and then it becomes a bit of a problem again in May for a lot of managers. That's the way seasons go. Yeah. And I think there is something difficult in the thing about 20 is I don't think managers like telling footballers who are working hard in training, well, you're not actually even coming the game in one of our seats. You're not even behind the dugout. I think that is hard for every club. I think it's especially hard for big clubs where you have got that strength and depth if everyone's fit.
Yeah, it's tricky with this Guardiola thing, because I'm inclined to think that basically anything in him and Arteta say this season is there's a level of posturing to it. Like, I don't want to call them both bad faith actors. I think Arteta has been a very bad faith actor at times this season. I will say that. I think Guardiola it's sort of convenient. It's convenient that it was De Bruyne's last game, and De Bruyne's been making a lot of noises recently, like almost like an air of discontent around how the whole thing's been handled, how his own game time's been handled at times, and things like that. I think it's a little bit disingenuous of Guardiola almost to protect himself and put the blame on the club. Now, I do think there is some blame on the club. I think City were way too scattergun transfer-wise in January. It's the first time I think I've seen City sort of not have that almost like clarity of purpose in a little while about transfers since that summer where they signed about 1 million fullbacks basically. Since then they've had real clarity of purpose in the transfers, and I think it's because Guardiola was able to get a bit of a grip of it. So maybe this is sort of a little bit indicative in a way of him feeling like he's lost that grip again with how January went. Suddenly there's a couple of footballers that he loves and has worked with for ages not being happy with game time. I think it's really stark, and I mentioned this to you before, it's stark that I think Phil Foden's had a terrible season. I think his England prospects should but probably won't be seriously harmed by how bad a season he's had, because England have the same problem that Man City have, is how do you find a place for a footballer like Phil Foden when you need to just be functional for a bit. Like City have been dying to be functional. England only existed in functionality while Gareth Southgate was there. How do you find something for a player like Phil Foden? Maybe Guardiola can find that next season. Maybe he thinks a smaller squad will help that. I'll be really interested to see what happens in the summer. I think it means probably Bernardo Silva finally leaves, which I've been absolutely crying out for basically.
He scores a big goal last night.
Exactly, and I've been crying out for it for basically every summer since he joined. To be honest, Neil, he is my least and in a different way most favourite Manchester City player.
I know exactly what you mean.
I think he's absolutely brilliant, and I absolutely despise the man. So that it makes it sort of tricky on both sides, really. I could see a scenario in which he leaves. Like Jack Grealish should be looking to move away from that football club under all and any circumstances. Like Jack Grealish is a vibesman for me, and his vibes at Manchester City have not been good from basically day one. So he needs to go and find something new. I'll be interested to see who else gets added to that pile.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few in there. I'm struck by. I think it is hard. I think it is hard to leave players out. I think it's really. I
completely agree with that. I think that there's some level of truth to this. I do think there's a level of posturing. There always is with Guardiola. There used to be with Klopp, by the way, as well.
Slot also early this season said he wished it was 22. For league games, he wished it was 22, and why isn't it 22 is his argument, because if it's 22 then it just means you can either have a couple of young players on the bench, or alternatively you can pick all of your senior players.
It also means you can sort of do different things based on game state and things like that.
It opens that up. I mean, we haven't had much game state this year where you've got the opportunity to rest a couple. But that's part of the reason why we won the league, because we took everything deadly seriously. I think it's still fascinating to me that even whilst Liverpool have been halfway on the beach, they still scored 2 against Arsenal and against Brighton. The flip side of it is they only scored 2 against Arsenal and against Brighton. There's been so many games. Liverpool have only scored. We're going to be doing season review stuff soon at the Anfield Wrap, obviously. What a season to review. But one of the things I'm going to say on mine is it's striking to me that at home, Liverpool have only, if you take the relegated sides out, the other 17, we haven't played Palace yet, the other 16, Liverpool have only scored more than 2 goals against 2 sides. Can you name them?
Oof.
It's a quiz question for you as well. Come back to it in a minute.
More than 2 goals against. So how many is it at home?
At home.
Bournemouth.
Yep.
We scored 3 against Brentford. Did we score more than 2 against?
Tottenham when we won the league.
Of course, yeah.
Brentford we beat 2.
I was thinking, because basically all our biggest wins, and I know you referenced this in a review a couple of weeks ago after the Fulham game, I think it was. We've been terrible from 1-0 a lot of times this season, and where I think we weren't terrible from 1-0 was earlier in the season. Like basically until Forest happened, Forest did something to Slot's brain.
Forest was really early. I mean, Forest was September.
Yeah,
there's a few interesting ones around that, and I think that will be something else I'll also be talking about. But that's one of the things that I think the manager wants to be able to do, because I think if you're going to be able to succeed in Europe and genuinely challenge for the title, you need to be able to put more games to bed by the hour mark in order to be able to do the business on that. And I think that's interesting as well as we'll go through. That is something else to look forward to.
You need pace to do that as well, by the way, so that's why we should be excited about players like Frimpong and Kirkus.
Oh, absolutely 100% agree. Last night Manchester City won. It means that the league table has Manchester City on 68, Newcastle 66, Chelsea 66, Villa 66, Forest 65. Any Forest win guarantees, no matter what happens for Manchester City, it doesn't quite guarantee. They could still do with a point in that universe. Forest, the most they can get in 7th is 68 points if they beat Chelsea. If they were to beat Chelsea, that would mean they went above them. If Villa then drew, they would also go above Chelsea automatically. Villa have got Manchester United. So the way this works is that Man City go to Fulham, Newcastle have got Everton at home, Chelsea go to Nottingham Forest, who are in 7th, and Villa go to Manchester United. I'm asking you, who is going to make the Champions League places out of those 5 clubs? 3 of them.
could kind of see it staying as is, you know. I think Everton will feel like their big sort of point of the season is done now, so I could see Newcastle winning that. Is that at St James's Park as well? That Newcastle one, yeah. I think that's like, to me, is almost a buy of a Newcastle win. City, I think, did enough last night. I didn't watch the game. I sort of forgot it was on, to be honest. And then seeing the result, I was gutted because I really wanted to go into the last day of the season where it was just like felt like it was all to play for.
Yeah, huge.
I think City have done enough now. I think
the
Chelsea.
Only thing is Fulham are mad. I mean, it's worth bearing in mind the madness of Fulham. But anyway.
Yeah, the thing with Fulham's madness though is, I mean, like, look at their results. They're lost 4 of the last 5. I think they're almost so mad that they're one of those teams who do go to the beach. There's a lot of teams.
They've got reason to now because you can't get European places anymore.
Exactly. Like I think we sort of overplay the on the beach thing with Premier League teams because I think all the Premier League teams are just really good. I think Fulham are one of those teams who, like, it feels like every single season Fulham get to like 10th or 11th and then just completely and utterly fuck off to the beach.
So do you think that Chelsea will get a result at Forest?
I think Chelsea will get a result at Forest. Yeah. They look like a group of players who are really sort of motivated. I know there was a little bit of crowing of how they celebrated after the Liverpool game. I actually thought it was indicative of a, like, you have to bear in mind where Chelsea were a couple of, well, even just last summer when Maresca's like putting lads in the reserves and there's outcasts to the team and stuff like that. The vibes around Chelsea squad was so bad.
So Chelsea have gone away from home this season to 6 of the top 8. That doesn't include them. They've got 1 to do, which is Forest. They've lost all 6. I'm showing it you there. That's what he's looking at, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
They got beat at Liverpool 2-1. They got beat at Arsenal 1-0. They got beat at City 3-1. They got beat at Newcastle 2-0. They got beat at Villa 2-1. And they got beat at Brighton and Hove Albion 3-0.
The thing I think...
That's a lot of getting beat.
It's a lot of getting beat.
My thing is I then sort of go the opposite and go, well, they can't lose to all the top 8.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I end up, but I think it is worth remarking on.
And also I'd plead madness like you did with Fulham. I think Chelsea are completely and utterly mental. I think Forest were really, really functional for so much of the season, and suddenly functional's become a bit dull and bit shit.
It's 2 defeats in the last 6, 2 draws in the last 6 and 2 wins in the last 6.
Like
but they've got a cup final in their ground. Like, they'll be able to think, if we win this, someone else probably fucks up and we get in the Champions League. It is like a cup final for them.
The Leicester game was it the City ground, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, I just think they've, like, the functional and good, but with a small squad and doing it while you're sort of playing through fatigue and stuff like that can quite easily become boring and a bit shit. I think Forest have become boring and a bit shit. I think Chelsea have become together and mad, which are both things that I think will counteract each other. So I'm sticking to my guns.
Okay, then coming up, Josh is sticking to his guns. That's the way it's going to go across the Anfield Wrap next few days. It's going to be huge for us, so do subscribe if you get the opportunity to do so. Liverpool as champions, a huge day on Sunday, and obviously then a huge day on Monday for the parade as well. But before then, tomorrow there'll be a midweek extra show, which will also most definitely be a gutter show, as Mr. Gutman is stepping in for that one. So if you want more transfer stuff, that's where you're going to get it from. We're also going to be looking ahead to the playoffs. It's the playoffs this weekend. Got a few callers for that as well, so that'll be in on our lower league show. There will be a Trends. Me and Josh Williams lined up to do that tomorrow, get that out the way. The Friday night with Erdinger, we will be recording it tomorrow and it'll be out on Friday. We've got the Friday show tomorrow as well. That is for you if you subscribe to the Anfield Wrap midweek extra, and Friday night out for free. It's last press conference of the season. We'll have press conference extra and team talk around that as well. There should be a really special Anfield Wrap freebie out on Friday too. Don't want to say too much, but you'll hear all about it from us as and when the moment comes. Pre-match warm-up also on Friday, last one of the season, and you've got an AFQ as well to come, and on Sunday we'll be doing post-match audio and video, and then on Monday, both on our social and also on shows as well, we'll be putting you at the heart of the parade all the way through. The Anfield Wrap also to be done on Monday next week, and Bacon as well. We'll be getting all the audio, all the video that we can, and putting it out for you as quickly as we can before rocking and rolling into next Tuesday as well, when we'll have yet more gutters and more of shows like Weekend. It's everything that you need on the Anfield Wrap. It's Neil Atkinson and Josh Sexton and a cast of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I think it'll be over a million people will be on the streets of Liverpool on Sunday. Over 1 million people to love the league champions. One more go round, one more party, one more. See you later on.